mbele ya kiti chako cha enzi asubuhi ya leo, tukiwa na furaha kwa sababu umetupatia uhai, ukatulinda na ukaweza kutuongoza kwa safari na ukatuwezesha kufika hapa. Twajikabidhi mikononi mwako Bwana, ukaweza kunena nasi kazi yote ambayo tutaifanya katika kikao hiki ya kufanikisha ushirika wetu. Mungu, twaomba ukatupatia ujasiri, ndiposa tunapoanza, enda nasi, utembee nasi, utupatie roho wa kusikiliza, kutoa maoni, ukituongoza na kuvumiliana kila mtu anapotoa kilicho ndani yake. Anza nasi na tukiomba wewe utakuwa mwaminifu kwa kila jambo. Hili ni ombi letu la imani katika jina la Yesu Kristo aliye Bwana na Mwokozi wa maisha yetu. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Bote. At this point, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the board chairperson, Madam Ruth, who will be with us maybe before we finish, to welcome all of you as the delegates for Nderi zone. And the reason why I'm saying as the members for delegate zone, Nderi zone, and this is a zonal meeting. The reason why I'm saying it is a zonal meeting is simply because I can remember last year we had a forum that resolved that because of the growth of the society, we have to transition from the way we used to hold the annual general meeting, this is AGM, to annual delegate meeting because of our growth. There is that regulation that came from the commissioner that any society that is also a deposit taking with more than 5,000 members has to transition. Even before that directive from the commissioner, we had sort of the same, such that we are able to inclusively allow the members to participate. And with that view, we got that solution. We did the amendment of the bylaw. We have a new bylaw that is in place that is also a tool for governance and practice, such that we are able to see the growth of NRS society. And in that view, the reason why I'm explaining, maybe some of you never attended that forum that was in Kinimo Garden, and we had to do that brief to allow us to move to the next level. At this point, this forum, we have to go through the various zones. And just to remind you, we have the zone for Nderi, we have the zone for Kikuyu, we have the zone for Kino, Wangige, and also Dagoretti. And we have finalized with our first zone, that is Dagoretti. This is now the second. And in the course of next week, we shall do the one for Wangige and Kino, and the last one will be on 24th, that is on Friday, to sensitize all our members of NLS as to the reason why we want to move from AGM to ADM. And also on top of that, we have copies of bylaw, and it is also good as we finish. Once you pass through the branches, you may request for a copy of bylaw such that you are able to orient yourself with what is really happening in terms of the amended bylaw. And at this point, I welcome our CEO to highlight some few things. Welcome, Mr. Mainge.
Good morning, washirika. Habari ya asubuhi. Nilikuwa nataka kueleza a few things before tuanzie. And the first thing I want to touch on is our zone Nderi. Previously, Nderi was broken down, I think, in 4 zones. We had Sigona, we had Nderi itself, we had what? We had Mugoga and Kitaru Tifai. So if you look at how the demarcation was done actually on the start of the Sacco, because I think the formation of the Sacco started in Nderi. But as the Sacco has grown, we've seen it wise for us to be able to draw the zones from the branches, because we are finding that you have various members from diaspora, members not only domiciled in the areas of Kikuyu. And for full representation, it will only be kind or fair if we give the branches and zones. So that's how we've moved from having maybe 3 zones in Nderi and 2 zones in Kikuyu and 1 zone in Kino, to now having a branch level forming the zones. So currently you'll have 5 electoral zones, and these electoral zones actually are Kikuyu, Wangige, Nderi, Kino, and Agoleti. This is actually the representation of the branches that we have. Going forward, like now we are looking at opening another branch. For that branch to also have delegates, we'll also have to send some members or some numbers from these branches to give that a new branch that will be coming up. And that's how the formation came to be. Secondly, before Eric takes us through the governance structure, I would also want to touch on another few things. That in the breaking down of these zones, we are not losing in any way. The board, through the commissioner, actually, we want to look at how we are going to have representation of these zones represented by the members from various branches. And this came out to be Kikuyu. Person shall be determined by reviewed by the board from time to time, but the number of delegates in every zone is determined by what? The size of the branch. We have the biggest branch being Kikuyu. Kikuyu has almost 6,000 members by itself. So this, by virtue of numbers and the size of the business they are giving us, they will have more delegates than other branches. So how are these delegates actually dispersed in the branches? So Kikuyu, being the highest, will have 66 delegates. Wangige will have 32 delegates. Again, dependent on the size of the branch. Nderi will have 29 delegates. And Kino will have 25 delegates. And lastly, Dagoretti, being the smallest branch and the newest branch that we have, will take 10 delegates. So the delegates actually are inclusive of the directors that are elected in those branches. So in total, we'll have 162 delegates representing the entire membership. So how are directors given in these branches? So directors, we have 9 directors and 3 supervisory members. So for Kikuyu, takes 3 directors and 1 supervisory board member. Wangige takes 2 directors and 0 supervisory. Nderi will have 2 directors and 1 supervisory member. Kino will have 1 director and 1 supervisory member. And lastly, Dagoretti has 1 director. So the total directors become 9 and supervisory 3 to form the quorum of 12 directors that are elected to run the Sacco affair. Now, in line to this, I would also want to tell you that for continuity on the operations of the Sacco, we are not going to elect or we are not going to subject the current directors to elections for the continuity of office. So they automatically be the first delegates in the respective zones they are coming from. I want to be clear on that. Because today we have an office that is going. So if you subject them in the elections, the commissioner found it wise for us to have continuity on this. Then the next election, then you can subject them again for the delegates can subject them for that rotation. So in that regard, I would want to introduce the first delegate from the branch of Nderi. And we have a few. We have Bonambote. Simama Mbote. He is Johnson Bote. He is a delegate number 1 in Nderi zone, currently sitting as a director and a supervisory capacity. We have Peter Kamweti. He's a director and delegate also number 1, sitting as a board member. And then lastly, because I think we are under 1 supervisory and 2 directors, we have Jane. Jane is also a director and also the first delegates that we'll have in the Nderi zones. So the 3 are actually the first delegates that we're having in the Nderi zones. So by virtue of our allocations, we are given 29 slots. So 3 already are taken by the 3 who are sitting. So we are remaining with 26 delegates that actually will be required to express interest through applications. Then after the applications have been gotten, through the office of the commissioner, through the Nancy, sorry we didn't introduce you. Apologies for that. I think in our places we have a sub-county cooperative officer, Madam Nancy, simama kujue. So on direction or vetting, we'll have Nancy with us representing the office of the commissioner to go through the applications that have been done, and if it's subject to more than the number that is needed, then we'll conduct an election from the zone that you're in. So elections will not be done like we normally used to do in the NGM. So to get delegates for the branch of Nderi, we will call members for Nderi peke yake. Watuchagulia nini? Delegates wao. Why do we need to call the members for Nderi? Because the delegates for Nderi will represent the members of Nderi in terms of representation too, on your questions that you have for the Sacco, on your recommendations that you have for the Sacco. The delegates will be responsible for pushing those recommendations to the board to see them implemented. So we cannot call members of Kikuyu to elect for you delegates. They will be done by zone that they are coming from. For example, now, if it is Nderi, you will give us a delegate for Nderi. And if the vacancy is there for Nderi, we will still call you again to give us an additional delegate on that, or a replacement of a delegate. So I believe that will be explained further by the Eric, but it's important for me to have actually touched on that. So what is the process that you are going to use? After this training has been done for you to understand further, after now we got the approval from you members through the AGM that we had last year, that calls for the change of and the amendment of the bylaw. Today we'll, after the training, we'll have the applications of the people who are interested to become delegates of the Sacco. So we'll be attracting 26 or more applications. After the applications have been done, then the vetting committee will take place to see they are meeting the duration that is required for a delegate. Remember, as a members, we agreed that if you don't have shares or savings with the Sacco, you cannot sit in the delegate to represent people with savings. So you must also be an active member. Sindio? Hiyo tulisema. So tukasema, on a minimum balance, at least a delegate is supposed to have 200 what? $1,000 of savings with the Sacco. Sindio? That actually, I think majority of you are sitting here have that ratio already. Secondly, share capital that is need to have 15,000. Again, I think the majority of you in the meeting are actually meeting that threshold. Eric will also take you through other requirements that you actually are in the bylaw that are requirement of a delegate. So after we go through that list of the applicants and we see that you fit, and the number is higher than 26 that you need from you, we will subject the branch to do what? An election to give us the only 26 members of delegates. So these 26 members that will be chosen by the members zones of the zone, that is what will actually be adopted in the ADM as the first delegate for your zone, which is in the branch. So with no much ado, I think I'll take the opportunity to welcome Eric. Eric, you'll be taking us through the governance structure. And Eric has been with us in the journey of amendment of the bylaw. He has done it very well. we thought of continuing with him in this service, and I think he's doing quite some good job. You'll attest to that as we continue. So Eric, karibu.
Thank you. Directors, staff, invited members, Madam Commissioner, good morning. Is it that we have not taken breakfast? Is it that we are tired? What is going on? So, Owor is my name. Niseme mimi ndio Owor. Like the prophet, no relation. I'm going to talk you through the proposed changes and your role as a delegate. And then what would be expected, and basically things that are evolving with the regard to how our governance is organized at NRS Sacco. First of all, and I think when we were at Kilimo Gardens, if you happened to attend that meeting virtually or physically, you will remember that this is a sign that your Sacco is growing. Basically, if you have so many members and you want to hold a general meeting and you gather some 6,000 people into a room, it becomes very difficult to have meaningful discussions. And so the commissioner said, why don't we have a smaller group of people who can have an effective meeting? Because gathering 6,000 people sometimes, you just have a lot of chaos going on. And I know a Sacco in Nairobi somewhere where for them, when they wanted to hold a meeting, they have to go to a stadium because there is no room there's no hall that is able to accommodate those guys. So we are evolving somewhat. A lot of what I'm going to say is going to be around this image here. When this is all done, this presentation will be shared to you. By the time we're done with all the regions, you will receive this. But basically, we are shifting from the system where you have general membership to the system where you deal with delegates. Now, it's important that we have a clear understanding of what the delegate will be doing. Because delegate ni kama yule MP unachagua ende azungumze kwa niaba yako. That is the person who is representing you, the person who is passing a message on your behalf. So even the people who will be delegates will have to understand that they are not going to air their personal opinions, but they are airing the opinions of the people who they are representing. So we will at some point get to issues around what resolutions do you make as a zone, because your zonal resolutions will be taken to the to the ADM, the annual delegates meeting, for discussions at that level. So we used to have members directly attending what you had as annual general meeting, and you could vote there, you could discuss there, you could make opinions there, and all those sorts of things. But now we are transitioning to a situation whereby we will be having meetings in our zones. So like the CEO has said, you, the members of Nderi, you will meet within this zone to discuss the issues that are affecting you in this zone. And then you will have people who will carry those discussions and take them to the apex decision-making organ of the Sacco. So we will be represented by the delegates, and you have been told that you're going to have up to 33 people who will be going to the annual delegates meeting to pass your message as members of Nderi. Amongst those people, you will have 2 directors in the board. Now, they already have done this distribution. You need to remember 2 things. The number of people we are going to choose to represent us is determined by the size of our branch. If our branch grows, like now we've been told that Kikuyu is where we have most members, isn't it? If we wake up tomorrow and we find that we have got more members in Nderi than we have in Kikuyu, it means we will have more delegates coming from Nderi than the delegates we get from Kikuyu. So it is your responsibility as members to ensure that you do not lose your representation by pushing for the growth of your branch or your zone. So recruit, recruit, recruit. And again I say recruit. Recruit people who will be active in this society, because that is the basis upon which we get to find the people who can be chosen into leadership. And the other thing, you know, maybe when you are meeting as all the members of Nderi, so let us say that you meet about 3,000 of you, and you try to do elections. For you to convince 3,000 people that you're the best maybe was difficult, but now there are 33 slots. So to convince 3,000 people that you are amongst the top 33 is easier. And then from the 33, now you know that there are two positions. So surely it is easier to convince 33 people that you can be one of the two. So there are opportunities. Basically just to show you that even your path to leadership is not the same as what it might have been before. Now, we've said that there are 162. The CEO has given us the distribution. So Kikuyu 66, Wangige 33, Nderi 29, Kinoo 25, Dagoreti 10, total 162. Your voice as a member begins in the zonal meeting. So whenever there are going to be meetings for people in Nderi, it is important that you attend. Because remember, already we have said that in the annual delegates meeting, some people will be going there. Maybe you are not a delegate. Your ideas are important anyway. So we do not want to leave anybody behind. Kila mtu akona nafasi ya kusikika. And in fact, the whole point of transitioning from general meeting to delegateship is so that you get an opportunity. There are only 24 hours in a day. If in these 24 hours everybody of the total number of members was going to speak, if everybody was to speak, we will not get as much time as if we had, say, 3,000 people given an opportunity to say something. So you have to understand your voice begins at the point of the zonal meeting. So you will get a chance to attend that meeting. There will be reports that will come from the board to that meeting. You will interact with those reports. You will query those things in that meeting. You will make decisions as the people of Nderi in that meeting. And there are resolutions that you will transmit to the ADM from that meeting, so that when your delegates go to the AGM, one of the things they will be expected to do is to stand up and read the resolutions that have come from Nderi. So that is what I'm going to talk you through. We've mentioned that there is a qualifying factor to becoming a delegate. One, you've got to be a member who is active. Remember, if you're dormant, it means you must not be saving with us. So if you're not saving with us, how then do you get chosen to represent people who are actively saving in this society? So to become a delegate, you will have to be an active member. Then, how much will you be required to have saved? So for you to be a delegate, minimum share capital. I think in the bylaw we reviewed, we talked about 20,000 shillings, and minimum back office deposits, 200,000 shillings, and minimum. Yeah, so basically, let's just focus on the numbers. Now, you've got to remember, when you're chosen to be a delegate, you're a potential director. For you to be chosen to be a delegate, it means you're a potential director. But the qualifications for directorship are slightly higher, because the commitment required may be higher. So we are going to talk about what happens if, for example, we have chosen delegates, but we do not have a delegate who has met the criteria for directorship. So the first thing is, you, as members, will be electing delegates. Understand that a delegate is a potential director, but a delegate has got the role of representing you, the members, when they go to the annual delegates meeting. So the next slide is showing us what the previous situation was, where you had direct representation. Everybody could speak directly in an AGM. But now we have the members picking delegates. Delegates go to the ADM, and in the ADM, they pick the board and the supervisory committee. So that is what has changed, all right? Every zone is going to be having a zonal chairperson and a zonal secretary. Because remember, you're going to be having minutes in the zone, meetings in the zone. And somebody somewhere must coordinate that meeting. Somebody somewhere must capture the deliberations and the discussions that you're having in that zonal meeting. So it is highly likely that one of your directors is going to be the zonal chairperson. And the zone will need to pick a secretary. I say this because you see, in the case of Dagoretti, we only have one position in the board. So that means that the person who is elected as a director is the zone chair. But now, who is the secretary? So the delegates within that zone have to pick somebody who will be the custodian of the minutes that they'll be discussing. So every zone is going to have a zonal chairperson. Every zone is going to have a zonal secretary. All right? Now, we've said that these are our zones. And we've also said that a zone must have officials who are going to help us to coordinate things in our respective zones. Now, to be a delegate, what are we looking for? We are saying that you need to have share capital of no less than 20,000 Kenya shillings. We are saying that your non-withdrawable deposits ought to be at least 200,000 Kenya shillings. We are also saying you can't have been a defaulter for more than 90 days in the previous financial year. So that in 2026, when we are looking at delegates, we understand that there are scenarios that may arise in the course of you doing farming, business, or employment, whatever the case may be, where you can fall onto hard times. Kazi inaweza isha. The business environment can become a bit difficult. You can have a drought, and then there's just a problem with how much your farming activities are earning. And then you might not be able to repay your loan obligations in the Sacco at the same level. That can happen. But we're saying that you can't have been a defaulter for more than 90 days in the previous financial year. You see, if you happen to become a delegate and even possibly even a director, it becomes very difficult for us to reconcile the idea that you may be a defaulter, you are in leadership, and then you're writing to other defaulters to make good what they have defaulted. So you want to make sure that those people who are elected to the leadership must be people who meet a certain standard, certain criteria. Now, that is financial. On a personal level, you need to have been with us for at least 2 years. Because we want to understand you. You know, a lot of this goes back to your character. But if I joined NRS Sacco today, and I said I want to be registered in Nderi zone, do you people know me? You don't. So even if I meet the 200 and the 20,000, the truth is you don't know me. So you want someone to have been a member for long enough for you to understand them, but also for them to understand the way you do things at NRS Sacco. And we're saying, at the very least, you need to have gotten to KCSE level or equivalent. So you're able to read and write and understand some of the things that we'll be discussing within the Sacco. On an integrity front, we are saying that you can't be somebody who has got issues with regard to having a criminal record where you are found that you're guilty of fraud, perjury, or dishonesty. You cannot have been adjudged bankrupt or have been found to be of unsound mind. And we also say that if you happen to hold a political office or a public office, you can't have been removed by way of disciplinary action, because that speaks to the integrity of the person. So somebody might hold a political office out there and then they get voted out. That is normal. But if they are removed because of a matter of discipline, and they hold a public office, then that is a whole different matter entirely. So we are saying we are going to look at, or the Sacco is proposing that when the vetting is being done, it is not just meeting the financial criteria. They look at the financial, the personal, and the integrity issues around the individuals who are expressing an interest in holding delegates' positions. Now, what is the term? Delegates are going to be elected for a term of 3 years, renewable. So you will serve for 3 years. When the 3 years end, you will be holding what you refer to as grassroots elections, all right? So once every 3 years, the members of every zone will be gathered for the purpose of picking their leaders at that zone, in the central area of that zone, because you want to make it easy for everybody to arrive at that phase. Usually, there's going to be a notice where you will be told that we are going to have zonal elections, and you will be invited to apply for those positions. Now, you will apply for the vacant positions in the delegates, and then you will be subjected to some sort of vetting. And the vetting will be based on the financial, the personal, and the integrity. By the way, one of the policies that you are going to need to familiarize yourselves with is the election policy, so that when that time comes, you don't say, I did not know what the criteria is. However, every time you're being prepared for elections at the zone level, you will be informed of all the qualification criteria that you need to meet, so that you, when you submit your documentation, if for any reason you are told that you did not satisfy the vetting thresholds that have been set, you understand exactly why it is. You may meet everything, but maybe your back office savings are not the 200,000. So you will be told, yes, you have met everything around the personal requirements, you have met all the integrity requirements, but you're not meeting one of the financial requirements. So it is important for every member to understand the criteria that is needed to meet qualification for a delegate. It is not inconceivable that one day we may have a zone whereby we have people meeting the criteria for a delegate but not meeting the criteria for a director. Because remember, we have said for you to be a delegate is just 20,000 Kenya shillings share capital, and for you to be a delegate, the minimum back office savings that you're supposed to have is 200,000. For you to be a director, the share capital is 40, and the minimum non-withdrawable deposits is, I think, 500,000. So you might find a situation whereby we have met as the delegates of Nderi. We have comfortably elected our 29 delegates. However, in the 29, we do not have anybody meeting the qualifications for directorship. If that happens, because you see, election for a director is going to be after you have elected the delegate. Now remember, members will elect the delegates, and then delegates will elect director. So members will not elect the director directly. Members elect the delegates, and the delegates elect the directors. So the people of Nderi, when they meet, they are going to pick 29 delegates. From amongst the 29, you must find one member of the supervisory committee and 2 members who are directors in the board. So if we find that we do not have anybody who has met the requirement for a director, what your bylaws provide for is that you will hold an election for directors anyway, so that they can fill these positions at board level and supervisory committee level, provided that these people who will be elected to fill those positions must meet the requirements for those positions they are filling within 1 year. So we will elect anyway, but those people need to very quickly work towards meeting the eligibility criteria for the positions they are vying to hold. So it is important for you to understand that, because we do not want to have a situation whereby we have people who are elected into offices, they are not meeting the criteria, and they are not working towards satisfying eligibility requirements. So that is something you have taken care of within your bylaws. And if the scenario ever arises, because you see, you might have a situation whereby, yes, amongst the delegates, we have people who have met the criteria, but those people who have met the criteria might not express interest in filling the directorship positions. So that leaves you in a bit of an awkward situation. So you must have an open-mindedness about it, that when it happens, you have a framework for making sure that whoever is going to be elevated to fill that position must meet the requirements within a 1 year period. The other issue is that you might have situations whereby people fall out of qualification for these positions. And when those vacancies arise, because there are many different ways that we can leave the positions that we hold. If for any reason there is a vacancy, ordinarily you would hold a by-election. However, if it is just 6 months to the time when you're going to be holding an election, then we are saying that there may be no need to go ahead to do what? To hold the by-election. Because why are we picking somebody to hold a position for less than 6 months and then we go into a different cycle? So if between the vacancy arising and the elections being held is less than 6 months, then there will be no need to hold a by-election. But if I'm elected to be a delegate today for 3 years, and then 2 months down the line or 1 year down the line, for some reason, I am no longer a delegate, then to fill in the remaining 2 years, you will need to organize a by-election at zonal level to fill the vacant position. Now, more than that, we are saying, in fact, there's just something that I'll need to realign there, because we have mentioned that for you to be a delegate, you need to be at least age 25. Remember, a delegate is a potential director. So it therefore follows that for you to be a director, you will need to be over the age of 25, isn't it? We've said that the requirements for a director are higher than for a delegate, because you're looking for somebody to demonstrate more commitment. The share capital is higher, the minimum savings is higher. For a director, you will request that people satisfy the Chapter 6 issues of the Constitution, but also you don't want to have conflict of interest. What does that mean? If you read the regulations that the Sacco is subjected to for the deposit-taking business, there are some documents called Regulations 2010. You're told that if I am a director in another Sacco that is under SASRA, I cannot also be a director here, because there's a lot of commitment that is required from you as a director. So how do you choose which organization you will give more time? How do you choose where you will give most of your resources, most of your commitment? When you make decisions, would you make decisions for the benefit of one to the detriment of the other? So if you are a board member in another Sacco, because you see, wherever it is you come from, people might look at you and say, when do you unaelewa hii mambo ya Sacco? Tusaidie hapa. Provided that that entity where you are being a director is not under SASRA, you're fine. In fact, if you go to the Cooperative Societies Act, the limit is you're not supposed to be a leader in more than 3 cooperative organizations at the same time. because then beyond that it just becomes ridiculously difficult for you to be effective. So, conflict of interest. If you are a director in another Sacco and a SASRA, you cannot also be a director here. So you have to choose. And by being a director, it doesn't mean board only. There is board, you might be in the supervisory committee on the other side and in the board on this side, or in the supervisory committee this side and the board the other side, or in the supervisory committee this side and supervisory on the other side. You must choose one. So choose, so that you not have conflict of interest issues arising. And also, having no undeclared debts. There is a reporting requirement on fit and proper test. If you're going to say you want to be a director, there is actually a form. There's a declaration of wealth, but there's also something around your conduct, good conduct. So conflict of interest issues are important. And what they say is that, there's indemnity and declaration of wealth, but there's a form for demonstrating that you are a fit and proper person to be a leader in a cooperative society. So if you're going to want to transition from not just being a delegate but also being a director, there are fit and proper requirements that are going to be placed on you. And these fit and proper requirements are taken to the regulator. And in fact, you cannot occupy a board position until you have satisfied the fit and proper test requirements. So the other issue is you may lose qualifications, because we might say that we are reviewing a number of things. So if we review the requirements to be a director or to be a delegate, and we say maybe now a delegate share capital, we change from 20,000 to 30,000, and then for a director, we change from 40,000 to 50,000. And then we say that we are giving ourselves 1 year to meet those requirements, effective today. Should we arrive at 365 and a quarter days later, and there is anybody who has not yet satisfied the need to improve the share capital, automatically you lose your seat because you have fallen out of the qualifications. So we must be sensitive to what resolutions are made at the ADM regarding our qualifications. Because you see now, the annual delegates meeting is going to be the decision or the apex decision-making body. When you talk about reviewing of your bylaws, that is where bylaw review is going to be happening. And it means that the things that are discussed at that level, delegates will have to disseminate this information to members. So if you're chosen as a delegate, you play a very crucial role. It's like you are the one who is helping us coordinate things between the organization and the members. You have to make sure you are linking the governance and the membership. All right? A suspension, let me leave the suspension, but if the provision is that if you hold a public office, if you're in employment, and then you happen to be suspended, and then that is confirmed and you're dismissed, then that might also speak to an issue around the integrity of the individual, and that may also cause you to lose your position. But I will invite you to read your bylaws on the removal of a board member, because the issues there are key. And also there's removal of a delegate. It's key for you to understand what goes on there, because you see, as a delegate, members might also say that they have lost faith in you. Now, waseme wanataka kukutoa. So it's important for you not just to understand how you come in, but how you may leave. Now, zonal general meeting. Members of Nderi will be called, and they will discuss Nderi issues in a Nderi general meeting. For you to have that meeting, there must be at least 15 days notice. So you are told that we're going to have a meeting on this day in this place, and these are the things we're going to discuss. Sometimes you may have other things that you want discussed beyond what they have put down as an agenda. It is important for you to reach out to the Sacco office or to your zone secretary and say, this is what I would like us to also talk about as an AOB, so that on the day you're having your meeting, once you have dealt with substantive agenda, the other AOB issues for which notice will have been given to the office can also be discussed. And we have mentioned that the zone must have a chair and the zone must have a secretary. So, you elect the representatives. They represent us. But when you are sitting in the zone, the board is also going to be bringing you reports on the performance of your organization. You will confirm the discussions you had in the previous zonal meeting, and then you will go ahead to dispense with the agenda that you have for your zonal meeting, and then you will pass resolutions within that zone, which resolutions are going to then be tabled in the annual delegates meeting. Now, this annual delegates meeting is going to have a number of things it is doing. So the zonal, the delegates we have elected, they can remove. First of all, they're going to confirm the elected people. But remember, within your zone, you're doing elections. Because we've already said, watu wa Nderi, nyinyi mnachagua, directors wawili, na supervisory mmoja. So, tukienda kwa ADM, the ADM will simply do what? Confirmation. That these are the people we have been given. But the ADM can remove. The ADM can say, these people, we do not have faith in the way they are running the organization. And so, let them step away. They also decide management structure. If we wake up tomorrow and we said we want to open a branch in Limuru, in Ruiru, whatever the case may be, that decision is made by the delegates in the annual delegates meeting. They also do financial oversight, whereby you have got your annual financial statements. Hesabu si huwa inakuja inasomwa na internal na external auditor. Those are the people now who are receiving that report. They're the people who can appoint bankers and designate the depositories. They also determine the maximum borrowing power. Those resolutions that huwa mnapitisha ya borrowing power. Sasa, because haifanyiki kwa zone, na kwa sababu hatutumii general membership, itakuwa inafanywa na annual delegates meeting. Strategy. When we talk about distribution of surplus, huwa tunapenda sana kusikia mambo ya dividends na interest on deposit. The decision on how to distribute is made by the annual delegates meeting. Mambo ya budget pia itakuwa inapitishwa by the annual delegates meeting. Sometimes, I don't know if it has ever happened in this circle, that you have felt that there are members who are stubborn. And because they are stubborn, you want to kick them out. And so the board has suspended somebody, and there's supposed to be expulsion. Expulsion is not going to be done at the zone. Expulsion is going to be done at the apex decision-making body, and that is the annual delegates meeting. So the ADM can expel a member who has been suspended. Of course, there is the administrative process that it would go through, and again, that is something that is covered quite elaborately in your bylaws. Again, issues of policy and remuneration, fixing indemnity for elected board members. I've mentioned that there are matters of declaration of wealth and also indemnity. It is the ADM that determines how much money is supposed to be given as indemnity by members of the board. When you talk about disposal of surplus, we are told that normally 20% we keep in statutory reserves. The rest we can pay a dividend to members, a decision that is made by the ADM. We can pay an honoraria to the board, a decision that is made at the ADM. We can pay a bonus to staff, a decision that is made in the ADM. And we can do anything else with regard to disposal of surplus. It is our delegates who will be making that decision. And of course, there may be any other business that the ADM wants to talk about for which sufficient notice has been provided. So those are the things that the ADM is doing. But it doesn't mean that everything is left to these delegates. If we woke up tomorrow and we said we are tired with this NRS Sacco, tufunge hii kitu kila mtu aende kwao, turudishie watu pesa yao, let us liquidate or let us dissolve our Sacco, we will not let the 162 delegates make that decision for us. We must go back to all the members and ask them what they think. If we decide that we are looking around and we are thinking that we want to come together with another Sacco, or we want to divide the Sacco into two, because we have reached irreconcilable differences and there are factions inside here, it is not the delegates who will decide. It is every member who will need to cast a vote. But there are things that you go back to hear the votes at the grassroots level. If we decided we wanted to change the core business or the objects for which this Sacco was registered, so we have been a savings and credit cooperative society. Now we decide we want to change, we just want to be a housing cooperative society. It is not the delegates who will decide. Every member must give us what their thoughts are. If we want to form or to liquidate a subsidiary company, every member must decide. Or if you want to do a majority shareholding in some company, you do some sort of takeover, because you're allowed to do some financial investments up to a certain threshold. If you want to do those sorts of things, we will not leave it to the 162 people. We will ask every single member and get what their thoughts are on those sorts of decisions. So just because we are going to a delegate system does not mean that delegates will make all the decisions all the time. There are decisions that are going to be left to you, the members. The process, we've said you will be invited to apply for a vacant position. You submit documentation to the CEO's office addressing this to the vetting committee. There may be certain documents that you're required to attach, like your national ID, a copy of your national ID. There's going to be a form that you will be expected to fill. I would expect that when you're living here, if you're invited and you're interested, you pick the forms. You might find that they're on the website. You download them, fill them, submit them to the office. There may be certain academic and professional qualifications that they may have set. For instance, we have said that for you to be a delegate, at the very minimum, you need to have reached, you need to have a KCSE certificate. A certificate of good conduct sometimes takes a long time to get. So if it is required that you start early the process of getting these things, the better it is for you. Remember, it is not to show that you have paid for a certificate of good conduct. You must have the certificate of good conduct. And there may be other prescribed vetting documents that will be attached based on your election policy, which again you're supposed to be made aware of, or in the policy. So you'll be informed of all the things. Now, we've said financial, the 12-month BOSA statement to verify your financial standing. And of course, we've talked about your details recorded in the official nomination form or register. Now, there are rules. When we go to vote, whether we are voting as members in a zone for a delegate, or remember it is the delegates voting for a director or in the ADM, it is one member, one vote. Doesn't matter your shareholding. So don't come and tell us that because my shares are many, my voice is louder. We have democratic equality regardless of your individual shareholding or your deposits. And the zonal meeting will allow individual members to exercise their rights to represent delegates and represent their interests at a society level, whereby in the delegates meeting, then the delegates are going to be casting votes on behalf of the members. So as the people of Nderi, we might have a resolution whereby we are feeling some type of way about one or two things to do with how the society is running. Our resolution will be taken to the annual delegates meeting. The other delegates, their thoughts may be different. And so, whatever decision is going to be made regarding that resolution will carry the day. I hope we are on the same page on that. Let me give you an example. Remember, we have mentioned that when we are picking leaders, we pick them at the zonal level. Members will elect their delegates. And then the delegates of this zone are going to pick their 2 directors and their 1 supervisory committee member. We might get to a point where we are experiencing a bit of dissatisfaction with the leaders we have chosen. One of our resolutions, we might say, let us take this to the ADM to remove a director. At the ADM, they might feel differently about this removal process, and our motion to remove the director may be defeated at that level. So just because you don't like him, him or her, doesn't mean that you remove them directly. And therefore, it is important for you to be careful at the point of elections. Of course, human beings change, it is normal. But understand, you get to choose the director. But to remove the director requires more than your voice. It will require the voice of the other delegates. So at the point that you are picking people as your leaders, make sure your decisions are carefully thought through. Now, there must be some commitment to excellence. You've got to be transparent, representative, and accountable within your governance at every level, whether you're a director or a delegate. Remember, you might have your own personal opinion, but when we have elected you as a delegate, you must carry the opinions of those people who have elected you, not your own. If they're in alignment with you, well and good. But if they're different, remember, you are taking the resolutions of the delegates to the annual delegates meeting. You're taking zonal resolutions to the annual delegates meeting. Compliance. You need to ensure at the delegates level, you understand what are the requirements of various legislative instruments that we are subjected to, like the regulatory standards, the Sacco Societies Act, and the various regulations. So that, and even your internal documents, your bylaws, so that when decisions are being made, you do not want to be the people who are making decisions that are contrary to the law of the land. So it's important for delegates. If you happen to be elected as a delegate, one of the things that you will require to be trained on is around matters, compliance, and governance, so that as you make decisions, you always operate within the lines. Even your directors are constantly being reminded about the regulations and the various laws, so that as they are stewards of this organization, they make decisions to the benefit of the members, and they are painting within the regulatory framework. The other thing is empowerment. So you need to empower members through a robust and fair delegate-based representation system. Train members in the zones. Inform members of what are the requirements. And when you have delegates, also take them through the training. If you are chosen as a delegate, you cannot afford to forget how you became the delegate. And that's not just about meeting the qualifications. You play a very critical role as a delegate. If there are ideas out there that we can exploit, bring those ideas. If there are opportunities out there that we can take advantage of, bring those ideas. Tell us about those opportunities. If there's communication that should be moving from the board to the members, or even from the members to the board, make sure you are a bridge that is helping us to convey those messages. So maybe, I don't know if you have got your zonal, say, you might have zonal WhatsApp groups, for instance, for ease of communication. As a delegate, you must ensure that you are helping in the running of the organization, because it means you are an integral part of our governance structure. Where we were going to members directly, now there are certain things that you may have a better understanding. Kwa ground kuna vile kunaenda. So we don't want that the board is doing things that are not resonating with what members are feeling at grassroots level. And so as a delegate, you play a very important role in ensuring that we do not lose touch with what is going on. The board does not lose touch with what is going on with the members, because when it comes to decision making, you are the people who are going to be called to vote on certain matters. So in conclusion, the delegates meeting, that is the supreme authority. You're going to have annual delegates meeting within 4 months after the end of the year. So we cannot reach the end of the month of April before we hold our annual delegates meeting. All delegates have the right to vote, to participate, vote on resolutions, and receive facilitation. So if you happen to be a delegate, and we are saying that we are enabling you to come for the delegates meeting, say by way of giving you transport, that is your right to receive. So you can't dictate for us how much, but ultimately we are saying we want to make it easy for you to come to our meeting. We've mentioned that at zonal level, when there are meetings to be held, 15 days notice. So we will not wake up and say, what Nderi kujeni kesho. No. We will give you adequate time to prepare for coming for that meeting, but we'll also inform you on what you're coming to discuss. And meetings occur annually for members across the different zones. And we're also saying that resolutions that are made in every zone are then going to be transmitted by the delegates to the annual delegates meeting. Sijui kama kuna swali kutoka kwangu, ni hayo tu. Maybe one or two things that you would like to seek clarification on. Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe some clarification. Members may wish to know are the meetings for the zonals will be financed by the Sacco? Number two, how many meetings are supposed to be held within the financial year? And number three, are the zonals obligated to see to it that the welfare of the Sacco, what are their contribution in making the Sacco more better than they found it? Thank you.
Right, so three things. One, the society will facilitate the meetings based on what is sustainable. Remember, this speaks to, what is the word? Your governance expenditure, all right? The first thing is that the Sacco is trying to hold zonal meetings in a central place so that people can come. If the Sacco has the resources, it will take care of the people. So it's not something you can predetermine, all right? Let us say we need to hire a hall for us to hold a meeting, isn't it? Of course, that is the Sacco spending money there, isn't it? But you must remember, whether you are a director, a delegate, or an ordinary member, remember you're a shareholder. What does that mean? You are an owner in this business, isn't it? At the end of the year, what are the things wakati wa AGM napenda kusikia? Dividends. Dividends inatoka wapi? Surplus. So tukikula pesa yote wakati tulikuwa tunafanya mkutano, si mtakuja mwambiwe, hey, hii mwaka hesabu haijaenda vizuri kwa sababu nini? We spent a lot when we were holding meetings. So one of the things I've mentioned is that your delegates will be passing budgets. If part of what they budget for is how to facilitate zonal meetings, then so be it, but it has got to be sustainable. Now, number of meetings. The board is given the duty of making sure that it has got a reasonable way of organizing the Sacco. First of all, remember, you pick up to 9 board members and 3 supervisory. because the reality was that if we called all our members, let us say we have got 12,000 members, we cannot call 12,000 people to come and run the Sacco for us. It is chaos. So that is why we said, let us have a meeting whereby 9 people can do this. But the process of picking the 9 people sometimes also becomes chaotic if you have to get the 12,000 people. And so the commissioner thought, let's reduce this. Any Sacco that has got more than 5,000 members have no less than 150 and have no more than 500. In fact, how you arrived at the 162 was the 150 plus the 9 board plus the 3 supervisory, so 162. I think that is how we came up with that number. And even when we were reviewing the bylaws, one of the resolutions that was passed in that meeting, apart from the bylaw review, was let our leaders automatically become delegates, which is why the CEO is saying that we are looking for 150 because in effect we already have some 12. So number of meetings, that is a headache that is given to the board. But as the people of Nderi, if you think that something is not right, the bylaws provide a framework for how you can ask for a meeting. So you can say, as the people of Nderi zone, we feel that we would like to discuss. Look at your bylaws. Meetings are convened by the board. Meetings are convened by the commissioner. Meetings can also be convened by the members. So if as members of Nderi we feel that kuna kitu inafanyika hapa na hatujafurahi, there's a threshold for a number of members that can cause for a meeting to be called within Nderi zone, all right? Welfare of the society in the zones. So I have mentioned that when you have your zonal meeting, there are resolutions you will discuss as members of Nderi. It is the responsibility of the delegates you have chosen as members of Nderi to transmit your resolutions to the ADM. So those of you who will be elected as the delegates, I fully expect in the ADM, the chairperson will ask zonal representatives, because we have said every zone must have a chairperson and a secretary. So I'd like to think secretaries of each zone will be asked to read the resolutions that have been made in the respective zones. And once they have read those resolutions, the ADM will discuss, all right? And then the outcome of those discussions, it is again the responsibility of the delegates to ensure that that information has reached the members. Of course, the Sacco will also make sure that it has passed the information through its normal corporate communication channels, but the delegate must go back and relay feedback, because mlitutuma tuende tuseme tunataka 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Kwa mfano, hapa Nderi, mkisema mnataka branch ya pili, hamwezi amua nyi wenyewe, sivyo? Lazima watu wengine waketi waseme, okay, in Nderi we can have a second branch and this is where we think it is located. So you can ask for a branch, but it is the ADM that will make the decision whether or not you're going to get a second branch, isn't it? Now, when that decision is being made, imagine you want a branch, but the ADM has also told the board, you see if we can go and open a branch in Naivasha or Limuru or Ruiru. And then we must make a decision. Do we go to Ruiru or do we open a second branch in what? Nderi, given the resources that we have. And if they say, okay, fine, Nderi, we understand what is going on, lakini vumilieni tu kidogo, wacha tufungue kwingine. Now, the delegates must inform you that, yes, we asked, but this is the decision that came back. Are we together? Any other question?
Hi. So you might have mentioned it, probably I missed it, but I just wanted to confirm regarding there's a mention that you did about someone being elected, I think, to the director level, and they have probably not reached the full requirements, but there's an agreement that they need to reach those requirements within a year.
Yes.
So what's the bounce back plan, if any, if this person does not reach within the stipulated time?
Okay. Thank you. So remember I mentioned that you can fall out of qualification criteria. We will elect delegates, and we would very much like a situation that when we are now picking directors, we have those expressing an interest in the director's positions meeting the director eligibility requirements, particularly the financial ones. If you're not meeting integrity, you know that is something we can't change. It's very difficult. But the financial requirements, isn't it? If you're not meeting the financial requirement, we're saying that you work towards these things within 1 year. Should the 1 year lapse and you have not met that eligibility criteria, automatically the directorship position becomes vacant and a by-election is held. So we will go back to the delegates and say, mlichagua Eric, tulikubaliana kwamba ongeze share capital yake hadi 40,000 na ongeze savings zake zifike 500,000, hajatimiza. Kwa hivyo, chagueni mtu mwingine. So this content is going to be shared with you so that you can interact with it. But like I've mentioned, a lot of the things I'm saying here are already in your bylaws anyway. It is important for you to read that document. If you read from the point of eligibility to be a member of the society until the point of election of directors, you will understand a lot of things. You don't even need to go into how the board organizes itself with regard to subcommittees, not yet. So just read from the point of how does somebody join until the point of how we do elections and the duties of the annual delegates meeting. That will give you a proper understanding of these governance things. It is a new way to you of doing things. Others have been at this for a while. But ultimately, like I mentioned, the fact that you're in this transition is a sign that the society is growing. Your voice at the zonal meeting is very important as a member, even those people who have not come here. They must remember, their voice is very important at zonal meeting because that is where you get to interact with everyone at the grassroots. It's just that now, if we were to call for an annual general meeting of all the members, it can become a bit of a chaotic exercise. So please, let us not forget that at the zonal level, every member has a chance to have their voice being heard. Should you be elected to be a delegate, you play a very critical role with regard to how we are running our organization. You are not just conveying what the members are saying to the ADM, you are also conveying what the ADM is resolving to the members. And every delegate is a potential director. So carry yourself as such. We expect that you will help to promote this society, whether you're a member, whether you're a delegate, whether you're a director, and the number of people you have representing you is going to be directly derived from how many active people we have. So you go and make sure that your branch is growing so that you can also have adequate representation at the apex decision-making organ of the organization. If there's no question, I want to say thank you so much for giving me your time. I want to wish you a good day. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Eric. Tumpige makofi. I want to recap on a few things, and as I'm recapping, I want to give some experiences I've seen in the Sacco. I've been here since 2018. Na he came a time we under board ikatolewa yote. And the unfortunate thing that came from that is that we didn't have a trade membership to come in and take the board forward. they had to start from scratch. These actually were the 9 members of the directors that came in. So there are so many challenges that we had that time, that is in 2019, 2020, that I would not wish anyone taking the same as a Sacco, or us as members continuing the same effect that we had in that time. So how do we prepare ourselves from this? You know, it is the responsibility of the directors to have a succession plan. Succession is not an aspect of management only. It's also an aspect of governance. Sindio? So when we have delegates, your job is not only coming and approving financial books and so. The Sacco also will invest some money to you in terms of what? Trainings. Tuko pamoja? As Eric is saying, a delegate is also a potential what? Director. So you'll also be treated in the same level as what? Directors in form of trainings. So in the eventuality the director position is vacant, then we know the person you are bringing up to the position of a director again is actually what? Well trained. Tuko pamoja? So this actually prepares us in form of what? Succession. And we ensure that the Sacco is moving in the right direction every given point that we have a vacancy. Wakati tunasema kazi yetu ingine ya delegate ni representation members kwa Sacco. Wakati mwingi tukiwa na AGM before, there's a time you find a member asking an operational question kwa AGM. Ati mimi nilikuwa nimesave savings zangu sijui zikafanya. But that is not a AGM agenda. Si ni kweli? So you find that instead of discussing the real issues in the AGM, we are actually diverting from the real issues to solving a personal question. Si ni kweli? So actually this helps us to manage the issues that are supposed to be discussed in the AGM better than we did before. Sindio? The other issue is the cost. Wakati tunaita AGM, we are not sure how many members will come. Sini kweli? They can even decide to come, the 12,000 of them. Wote, sindio? So if that happens, we have to adjust our logistics to meet that cost. And now, there are issues that actually we deal with every year, like budget approval, for example, like approval of financial books. Always we have that, a question that actually today we have invited all the members to come, but we are not sure how many will attend. Sindio? So wakati wanakuja 500 ama 700, tunasema at least we have saved what? Cost ya members. Sini kweli? But now we don't want to live in such ambiguities that actually today we are expecting 1,000, 2,000 or so. That budget is always there. So for example, if a member is being given 1,000 for answer, and you know you're 12,000, always the management has that budget mahali, yakuwa we might get even 6,000 members coming. So the budget is already there. Only that is not utilized because they didn't come. Now to save ourselves from such issues that come with costs, we actually finding it easier for us as a Sacco to advance 62 in terms of what? Representation. And this cost of preparing these meetings goes back to you in terms of dividends and interest. On governance oversight, kazi yetu kubwa kama delegates, Eric has taken us through all this and has told us things like approving dividends, approving honoraria, election of directors. Lakini kuna mambo mingi tunafanya kwa hii kitu tunaita governance. Sindio? We need to see our Sacco moving in a certain direction. And imagine the people who are supposed to have seen that happening are actually 9 people who are actually done what? Trained to do that. Sindio? How the 12 directors that we have who are only trained to assist you and force on the governance. But when you are giving us another 150, you are spending actually the scope of the number of people actually enforcing on what? On governance. Because in limited companies, what we have shareholders. Sindio? Apart from shareholders, we have what we call agents. Agents inakuwa ni watu kama management, kama sisi tumeajiriwa na shareholders to oversee the operations of the day-to-day operations of the company. These are different contexts from what we have. So we, the agents, most of the time we are concerned about what? Our welfare. Si kweli? Mimi nataka kukaa kwa kazi, si ndio? And for me to kukaa kazi, nataka kufanya 1, 2, 3 issues that actually pleasing what? Looking at the Sacco is profitable, looking at the Sacco is doing 1, 2, 3. But now, there are people who are actually concerned with what? The shareholders' welfare. The shareholders' welfare ni wewe ulileta savings zako ama deposits zako, ukaweka kwa Sacco. At the end of the day, apart from kuchukua loan, unataka kuona nini? Mazao kwa hizo shares zako umeweka. Hiyo ndio kazi ya governance. And that's what I'm saying, by increasing the 12 to 162, you're improving that governance. And it is very important for the Sacco to enter your direction. The other thing that I would want to have touched, is on accountability and transparency. Majority when we call for AGM, wengi wetu hata hatujapata hizo hesabu tu aziangalie ndio tuweze kuuliza directors maswali. Si ni kweli? Tunazipata hiyo siku, majority of us, si ndio? So when you are supposed to ask the real issues to the directors, you're not in a position because probably you have not looked at the financial books. So for this accountability, when you're extending it to delegates, the accountability is more than when you're having the AGM, because at least the delegates have the opportunity to interact with the occurrence of the Sacco for the entire year. Now when they are having an NDM, at least they have real issues to ask the delegates on terms of the accountability. So there are so many other issues that actually we are having an advantage of having a delegate system. And actually, mimi ninafurahi sana kama tumefika hapa. And actually, one of the issues that I would tell the chair of the board on achievement actually is actually what? The transition from the normal AGM to the delegates, because at least that they improve the governance structures. And with no much ado, I would want to invite the representation from the cooperative. Akuje pia ongea na sisi in regard on this. So karibu sana.
Thank you. Good morning once again. I think it is still morning, huh? Tuko sawa? Yeah, and I think we have been told a lot of things, and I think that is what we needed to hear. Eric has done a good job. Na kwa hivyo now, at this point, it is important for us to confirm that because we are told knowledge is power, we have the knowledge. Bakisha tu now too, the ball is on our court. Now the decision, it is up to us to make. And maybe I would like to mention a few things. And number one, we are called upon as members of Nderi to apply for the positions of delegates. Sinikweli? Because tukifunzwa and then we do not take it up, it will mean there will be a vacuum. Kwa hivyo the members that qualifies according to the qualifications that was laid out to us, we have a responsibility to apply. And the beauty of making this application is whoever will make application and vetted na a qualify atatusaidia to patronize the Sacco, to patronize the product of the Sacco. Kwa hivyo wale watakuja wakuje wakijitolea kufanya kazi for the purpose for the benefit of this Sacco. As our manager has stated, now the patronizers, wale watakuwa pale kwa uwanja wakicheza hii mpira ya hii Sacco yetu. Unlike it was before, ilikuwa 12 board members, the 9 plus the 3, sasa tutakuwa na 162 members. Wale watakuwa wanaongea mazuri ya Sacco yetu. Kwa hivyo, it would only show us a brighter future. Because we'll have more people speaking of our Sacco, speaking more of our product. You know, whenever we had issues, as the peoples of Nderi, tulikuwa na director ngapi? director wawili na supervisory mmoja. Lakini sasa we will have at our disposal 26 members to approach. If you have any question, you want any clarification, you'll have at your disposal 26 members to get clarification from. The other thing ni mambo ya, as members, we are called upon when you are called upon to participate in the issues of the Sacco, I wish we can be viewing this call in line to the deposit, in line to the investment you have made in this Sacco. Kwa sababu, most of the times, kama maybe wale, the investment we have made here, ni kama tu ile watu wamemake kule kwa Safaricom. When they call upon the investors wa Safaricom, when we call the investors of NRS, ni nyinyi. Kwa hivyo, when we are making a decision, when you are speaking about your Sacco, you must view in line with that. Investor wa Safaricom hawezi ongea ubaya wa Safaricom kwa sababu, whatever the outcome of whatever they will say will be, it has to affect sisi. And it is the same thing with us. Whatever we speak of our Sacco, the outcome, sisi ndio itafanya nini? It is us who are going to be affected. Kwa hivyo, we continue urging us all of us as members to patronize and to speak good of our Sacco. Most of the times, unfortunately, wakati Sacco iko na issue kidogo, we are really loud, tunasikika. Lakini, whatever the achievements we have achieved from our Sacco, sana sana hatusemi. Utapata bwana fulani akisema ati hii garden ilinunuliwa na Sacco. Ni kweli inapatikana hiyo? Hapana. Lakini dividend ikishuka kidogo tu, kila mtu ni mikono juu na kusema nini? So whatever I'm saying is we are called upon to speak even the good. Speak more good of our Sacco. Ndio hii Sacco yetu tufanye nini? Tuweze kuendelea. And then the other thing I got to understand is the apportioning of the delegates ilikuwa based na the active members. Si ni kweli? Kwa hivyo kama members wako wachache, wale wako active, ndio delegates watakuwa wachache. This would mean it is a call for us to activate and have more active members. The more the members, the more the delegate, the more the people we will have at our disposal to consult. I will not say much because much has really been said, but we call upon you at this level. This level is the education level, educating the members on the delegate system. Then the ball will be on your court, whereby you are required to make the application. Then the only thing I can maybe confirm to you is that when we'll be called upon during the vetting process, we'll make sure that the vetting is done in the right way according to the provided provisions, so that the people we will get to the delegate ni wale ambao they qualify, and the people that will qualify, they will be people with the best interest of this Sacco. Sio iko sawa? Ikifika kwetu mambo ya vetting, we'll do it the way it should be. The other thing I would want to mention for all of us is tumeambiwa delegate lazima kuwe na 200,000. Si ni kweli? Hakuna mtu akona 200,000 in our Sacco who is not a committed member. Si ni kweli? Ashaanza safari. Ni mtu mwenye amekuwa kwa si mgeni, ni mtu amesafiri safari na hii Sacco yetu. Kwa hivyo it's a bit, there's some confirmation that the people will get in the delegate ni watu ambao wanaenzi Sacco yetu. Now, kwa hivyo with that, I think whoever came up with the requirements, I think that's a thumbs up. Somebody with a share capital of 15,000. Ni mtu mwenye si mgeni, anaelewa na anajua hii Sacco yetu. Mtu mwenye ako na loan na analipa. Mambo ya defaulter na dhani hiyo hakuna kukubalika. Na mambo ya serikali tumeambiwa lazima kuwe na good conduct. Kwa hivyo sio mtu mwenye ako hapa vizuri na huko nje haendelei vizuri. Sio iko sawa? I think kwa hayo mengi na machache, thank you so much. I appreciate.
Now, lastly, I would want to tell us on something. Tukienda kwa branches zetu, kuna notice. Kuna notice board. Notice of nomination. Tuko pamoja. Ili tu notify aje, kama una qualify kwa hizo criteria kwa branch that are actually there, ufanye nini? Apply. Tukishapata applications, tutafanya kitu unasikia Madam Nancy akisema vetting. Tukisha vet, tutapata ile namba tunahitaji, si ndio? Tutawaita tena mtu confirmie au nini delegate. Sawa. So please usichoke, it's the start of this process, and tunataka mtusaidie ndio tupate the needed number, so that at least we have our first inaugural what? Or our inaugural ADM before the close of April. Sawa. So tukitoka nje wale wako interested, there is a form ya nini? Ya application ya kuwa delegate. Tafadhali kama unahitaji kuwa delegate, please show interest by picking the form and applying. Tumemaliza ya Dagoretti, already we've gotten the number. Tunakoja kufanya nini? Vetting, alafu tuwaite mkutano watu confirmie the delegates. Pia nyinyi ningetaka mjikakamue, mu-apply, ndio tufanye hiyo vetting na tuwaite confirmie ndio tusonge mbele, si ndio? The SACCOs, all of them are required by close of April, before the close of April, to have conducted either an AGM or an ADM. We are not willing to breach that requirement or regulation. We want to comply. So tusaidieni tuweze comply kwa hiyo requirement that is supposed to be adhered to. So I'll call Bwana Treasurer atupeleke hapo pengine. Karibu.
Thank you, Mr. Mainge, for the presentation, and also to Eric for you to be elaborate at this point. And I would like to highlight some few issues about the issue of member deposit. I chair the finance committee of NRS, and the strength of the society is usually the mandate of the board. And we shall be very happy when the threshold comes to 162, meaning instead of 9 and the 3 for supervisory to push for deposit, we shall have a very good number. Let us ensure that we spearhead in NRS in terms of growth. NRS, formerly the TICA, started in Nderi. This is where it started. And you can, as well as you have heard, that and we based the delegate based on the membership which is active. Kwa hivyo tukijua mtu mwenye ni member na account yake ni dormant, tusiogope kumwambia came and activate such that we shall have a good say in terms of the growth of the society. Sikumaanisha zitabaki delegates 32 or 33. If Nderi surpasses Kikuyu, it is as well be important, it will have more delegates. Kwa hivyo kibarua iko, tufanye kazi as delegate, and we see the society grow. Having served in this board, we shall be very happy once wakati tutatoka. Ama mimi wakati nitatoka as the treasurer, that the transition happened during my tenure. Sinaona, it happened during a certain tenure. And that is the growth. That's why societies like Safaricom, societies like Mwasibu, societies like Stima, there is that big growth simply because unapataka wakati HM iko, na wakati vile subcounty ametobia Nancy, ati dividend imeshuka chini, unapata mtu wako na sauti pale. But now, we shall be jointly and severally reliable to ensure that bring more deposits. Once you bring, the board will not go and borrow. Meaning, we shall not attract what we call financial cost. It will be minimal. And also on the other part, we are also very happy, sababu hakuna any member who has ever requested for a loan. We give a loan up to 15 million. And we are nearing 20 million for each and every single person. Si hapo kukona, there is that growth. Kitabo, hugepata loan kama hiyo. Sinaona, hugepata loan ya pesa kama hizo. And there is no member who has requested for a loan anakuja anapata hakuna resources. The finance committee through the board ensures that there is enough liquidity to be able to be in that pool for disbursement of loan. And also the other part, I would also like to highlight, Nderi is so very lucky. And because the chair for credit, and ametoka, upande wa Nderi. Kwa hivyo Bwana Kamweti, members wa Nderi wakikosa loan, that is the right person. Si unaona? Kitambo I used to serve as a member of Nderi, but because of the growth, I went to another branch and also to Arao, because Nderi was somehow overrepresented. Si unaona? Na kuna branch ingine ilikuwa weak, nikasukumwa nikaambiwa enda uangalie branch kwa nini iko weak, na wacha niseme branch imeamuka. Si kutoroka, nilitoroka Nderi, is to ensure that we are able to equate each and every branch that is coming. On behalf of the board, let me come to the closing remarks through the board chair. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for getting time and come to attend today's zonal and delegate training forum. Kwa sababu tungepanga na tukose watu wenye kuja kuhudhuria, at least it could not augur well. At least even the sub-county cooperative officer will attest that we are doing the sensitization of this transition. Secondly, I would also like to thank the members of the board for ensuring that since we did the review of the bylaw, sensitization has been made, and also the notices to the effect of transition are our notice board, such that you go through our notices in different branches, you are aware of the requirements of who is supposed to be a delegate. We are doing it in a very transparent manner, simply because we want the growth of this society. We want the growth of NRS, and when the society grows, you also grow. So I'd like also to thank our board chair and also our vice chair for ensuring that they have the drivers of the society. The sensitization is done in a very good manner. The other team I would also like to thank is to thank our consultancy, Mr. Elik, what is your name, like the prophet. Tumekushukuru because of the way you are able to present in a very precise and also understandable manner, such that each and every member will be able to attend. And we also request you also support us through the last remaining zonal forums. The other team is the members of the staff fraternity, led by our CEO, Mr. Mainge. We also like to thank you because you interact with our members. All these applications will not come to the board. It will pass through the office of the CEO. And that office is independent, because at the end of the day, we want the growth of this society. The society is much bigger than any other person. So we are doing it in a very transparent manner, such that we require the delegates who deserve to be the delegates of NRS, such that we are able to assist this journey together and move the society much far ahead. So kindly get those vote of thanks, including your members of your staff management. The other team I would also like to thank is the office of the commissioner, represented by Madam Nancy Kagiri, through the director Cooperatives Kiabu County. And ukirudi pare, we really recognize your office, and we shall work hard in hard. And also, I would also like to, because we highlighted this to the regulator, we report to two authorities. We report to the commissioner, and at the same time, because we are deposit-taking society, we also communicate with our regulator, who is SASLA, and we are waiting for the approval of the books of account, such that we are able to have our first ADM, maybe not later than 30th of April. So we also appreciate the support we have gotten through that forum. And lastly, but not least, I'd also like to thank the team from Kefri for ensuring that we are able, when we requested for this forum, for this hall. Previously, we used to go to primary schools, tunaenda pale Kikuyu, tunaenda Nderi primary, and also we found let us also be able, because you are going the delegate way, and it is only 162 who will be attending, to look for a comfortable place whereby we are able to transact and the issues of NRS as NRS members. Because if you go there in other area, utapata hata yule mtu mwenye hana account, akanaona watu wanaenda mkutano, yeye anakuja. Sio ni maneno kweli. So we want the investors of this society feel that they are part and parcel of what is really happening. At this point, nimeona our vice chair who was in another meeting in Kikuyu. Alikuwa meet a team of investors in our branch. I think on behalf of the chair, I will welcome you to say something, Mr. JM. Yeah. Na tufugie mkutano pia.
Thank you. Habari wa shirika. Hamjambo wa shirika. Kwa majina ni JM Waweru. Mimi ndio naibu hapa NRS na nafurahia nimewapata. I really wanted to be part of you, lakini ikakuwa kwa mkutano ingine. Lakini nafurahia kwa nimewapata. Well, I would want to say that GK maybe has registered the apologies from our chair. Yes. Na tumeikubali. Well accepted? Asanteni sana. I don't know kwa kufunga mkutano ni maombi ama ni namna gani GK? Asante please. Asanteni. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the abush. Najua kiongozi lazima awe na mambo mawili, and because of the protocol hatugefunga mkutano bila vice chair. Siketaka kupata shida kule kwa boardroom. And I'll request and to be gender sensitivity. Mr. Boteri alifungua kwa maombi. And Mr. Maige, you had something for the members in terms of, was there any breakfast? Kwa sauti pia.
There's a small breakfast prepared. Okay, tujapika lakini kuna bahasha kidogo. Yes.
So, thank you for that, and also for considering the members for Nderi. And ile kitu naweza uliza, wakati tuta invite nyinyi tena, let us also try to attend such that you are able to ratify what will be presented from the vetting panel, such that there is no vacuum. Kwa hivyo nitauliza members wa Nderi, msimamie branch yenu vizuri. Let us attract all those applications from there, such that there will be no vacuum. Hatutaki kuenda mahali tunapata hatujapata wale delegates wenye tunastahili kupata huku upande wa Nderi. Other branches are really applying. Hata ikiwa tujafika huko, najua sio huko na kama Kikuyu. Kikuyu is very vibrant. Applications zinakuja kukuja. So don't be left behind. And also on the marketing aspect, ukienda pale nyumbani, and ensure that we have very good products here. Members can attest to this. Let us patronize those products as the way we can. And once we patronize, our surplus will definitely be on the upward trajectory. And also when the surplus is in the upward trajectory, the interest on deposits will be very high. The rebates to members will also be very attractive. I will ask Madam Kehala, Consolata, utatufugia na maombi. Kaidre.
It was arranged we come here for this meeting. Jehovah God, we thank you because as we prayed in the beginning, you have walked with us from the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Lord, we thank you for this meeting, and as people and as members from Delhi Zone, we pray that as we apply for the delegates or board or whatever, Jehovah God, you be with us. And we pray that we take Delhi to where it used to be. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, and we declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.